Lori May. I'm from Madison. And thank you, Senator, for coming today and speaking with us. My question is, why after 200 years of our Constitution did you feel the need to change the rules for electing Neil Gorsuch to the Supreme Court instead of changing the rules? Why didn't you change the candidate?
Well, thank you. Look, just sort of some quick sort of points about that, and I understand there's a lot of discussion and arguably some division in the country over how the courts are currently being handled, but I think we ended up where we are today by a course of events that were put in motion 10, 12 years ago. In 2003, when Democrats at the time in the Senate decided to block, through the use of the filibuster, about 10 of President Bush's judicial nominees. That had never been done before. We had never seen filibusters used, a judicial filibuster used to block appointments to the court. So roll forward to 2013. After that happened, Republicans in the Senate at that time were in the minority, on a couple of different occasions used the filibuster to stop 2 of President Obama's judges. Now bear in mind that President Obama got 215 of his judges through, 215 out of 217 up to 2013, at which point Senator Reid decided to change the rules for all appellate and lower court nominees. And so that's what sort of started this train going. And at the time, we Republicans in the Senate complained about it, as you would expect. But so anyway, they started moving through all the judicial nominees and for the lower court and the appellate court at the 51 vote threshold. So last fall, you have a presidential campaign underway, and you know, at that time, Tim Kaine, who would have been vice president if Hillary Clinton had been elected president, said that if we win, we will finish the job and go to 51 votes for the Supreme Court. Harry Reid said the same thing. Harry Reid said, and he snapped his fingers like this, and he says, if they miss with the Supreme Court, we'll change it like that. And so I think this sort of was destined to happen irrespective of who won the presidency and who was in control of the Congress. So what we did last week was essentially finished the job that Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer had started, and that was to put the threshold at 51 for the Supremes in the same way that it had been done for lower court and appellate court nominees. And the fact of the matter is, from a practical standpoint, it really doesn't change anything, because the filibuster had only been used one time in all of 230 years of Senate history to stop a Supreme Court nominee, and that was a bipartisan filibuster. It was in 1968, Abe Fortas was a nominee for President Johnson. Both sides agreed. It was a bipartisan decision that he shouldn't be on the court, and so he was stopped. Johnson ended up withdrawing him, but that's the only example in 230 years of Senate history where the 60-vote threshold had been used to stop a Supreme Court from being confirmed. So for all intents and purposes, to me, as a practical matter, what it means is that Supreme Court nominees now are going to be confirmed at 51, just like they always have. I mean, you could argue, if you want to, that it'll change in some ways the way the president will nominate people if he thinks that the threat of a filibuster no longer exists. But in terms of the way that the Senate confirms judges, it's always been a 51 vote threshold.